The one.
Okay, recording started, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, I see it's time to start our meeting of Arkansas 529 Plan Review Committee. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you. I call this meeting to order. I see a quorum, and we have notified the press of this meeting today pursuant to Act 93 of 1967, the Freedom of Information Act here in Arkansas. So we are in good standing right now. We have the minutes from the last meeting that we had, and that was on August the 29th, where we approved our budget. Are there any changes or additions that anyone would like to suggest for those minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion. A motion and a second. And motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Good, thank you. All right, let's move into the business. We're going to start with Fran. You're going to give us an overview of what our expenditures, and I think we need an approval.
We need approval of the checks and invoices that are in the voting members' packets. So if you had any questions about any of that information, I'm happy, or Chris is happy to answer, but if
They're
not,
pretty standard.
we would ask for a motion to approve.
A motion? Got a second? A second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. And now
Ms.
I'll
Fran,
move into-
you can move into
move into my director's report.
Please.
So, first of all, as you saw in the aptly named minutes, because it takes 1 minute to read them, we had a special meeting in August for the sole purpose of having the voting members approve our fiscal year 25 budget, which they did. And Chris and I have a meeting next week with communications group where they're going to roll out, once we told them what the figure was, they're going to present us a plan next week. So we'll have more information about that at our next meeting. In September, the month of September, we worked with the census and sponsored a 529 sweepstakes. And we awarded five $529 contributions. And it was geared toward people who a census already has in the prospect portal. So people that are just kind of in there, but haven't moved on anything, haven't taken the next step to open up an account. And then also we were just trying to generate more leads in general. So we promoted the sweepstakes via email, social media and digital ads. And we had 378 entries. So all those folks would have opted in to be, added to the prospect list. The campaign itself generated over 400 website visits and 5 new enrollments. So yesterday I got, and I think Eric had just walked by my office, so I just have to tell this story. So I called the 5 winners, and they were all just delighted. And so the last gentleman that I reached, he was just so excited, and he goes, well, what can I do to help you promote the 529 plan? And I was like, that's just kind of he goes, well, I'm in marketing. And I said, oh, well, that's really, sweet of you. And he goes, yeah, I work at Garver Electric, and they're a huge, huge company in Arkansas. And Chris and I have them on our short list of companies to get in front of to talk about the employer benefits of 529. So I quickly looked him up while we were talking, and he's like the head of marketing. So he's going to connect us with the HR department at Garver. And I said, here's how you can thank me, But so that it was just serendipitous, but it was really nice. So who knows, our $2,600 investment to run this sweepstakes may pay off in more ways than I know. So moving on, just some outreach, which predominantly Chris has been doing. So in July, we received a phone call. Another big company, ArcBest, called us, and they did an employee survey where they asked employees what they wanted the company to help them with or what they wanted to know more about. And one of them was offering the 529 plan. So they called us. We did a kind of a virtual meeting with an HR person and a VP there. And that's just turned into a great relationship, so much so that Chris is going this weekend. They have, they kind of turned their open enrollment employee benefits fair into a family event.
They got a marathon going.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
like a party. So Chris is gonna go up tomorrow afternoon because it starts at like 8 o'clock Saturday morning. So he's going to go to ArcFest for that event. And then they've also asked us to come back in November to present like a little more formally to employees. So those two have really gotten me excited. We helped sponsor a table helped sponsor and had a table at Economics Arkansas's Teachers Conference in July. About 200 educators were there. Chris attended the Department of Ed Summit in Hot Springs, which was thanks to your boss, Dr. Warden. He was invited to do that. And then in September, we participated in some open enrollment fairs, Arkansas Rehab Services, State Employees Enrollment Fair at the state capitol. Chris went over to Energy and Environmental Quality Agency, and as well as Game and Fish. And then lastly, Chris will be going to the SHRM the SHRM concert
That's a way better
conference.
way to do SHRM.
Yeah, yeah. That could be
That
fun.
sounds way more fun than what I thought it was gonna be.
But, so that's the HR professionals, and they're like 400 or 500 HR people with that. So that's been a good event. And then we've been invited to go to the Poen School District. We met the superintendent at actually an event in Bismarck. It's a long story I'm not going to go into, but bottom line is turns out she's a 529 person. She talks, I mean, like a testimonial about how she's a single parent, got her son through college. So now that she's the superintendent, she said, I really want to find a way to promote the 529 to my families. So what we've come up with, and I think it's in your packet, and we're going down, so 529. So she convinced the school district to merge two events that they have. One is their college night, and then the other one is like a K through 5 or 6 art show. So we're turning it into Canvas College and Careers. And so they're going to combine that art show, college night, but then it's all sponsored by us. And we'll have a few minutes to, she's going to introduce us and then just indicate that we'll be at the table for questions. So that will be nice. I'll be anxious to see how that goes, because that might, we could replicate that perhaps in other school districts.
She could be a testimonial there, because I think that could be
Yeah,
really great.
she is. Yeah, because she, as the superintendent, she's going to stand
Yeah.
up and welcome everybody. And we spent $500 to sponsor it. And we said this will cover we said, what will get people there? And she said, honestly, food. So that is, so between, we said, you define this how you want, but you have $500 to go toward food. And then also any like raffle items for, drawings. So we will.
Friends, the staff can have cooked pizzas or.
Yeah.
Hey, some of those school pizzas were good.
The square with it.
And then the last thing, and then I'm done, is we are going to Fordyce. We were invited, and I don't know this organization, but it's the General Federated Women's Club of Fordyce. So we are going to present to them. I think this is a call that initially came in to your side of the office, and just with timing and everything. And so we kind of parlayed it into 529 and ABLE and AF, the Financial Education Commission. So we're going to go and kind of promote those three things.
That it?
That is it.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Very good. Okay. Ms. Shockley?
Thank you. Just off of some of what Fran said, that, contest we just did seemed to have a great click-through rate, and I think you're using your marketing really wisely in the paid search and, kind of bringing people. I think also it showcased the engagement of your current 529 members.
Yes.
Which is good. They engage with the plan, and I think that's what you're looking for. So it was really good to see based compared to what the expectation is for how many people will engage, the percentage of people who engaged with your plan. So thank you, Chris. Chris is running the board here. We just move on to slide 3. So your current assets in the direct plan are close to $657 million. As you can see, this year has been excellent for the plan. Since this same time last year, the plan has increased by about $110 million based on both contributions and just how the market has been doing in that time. Your year-to-date contributions are about $44,900,000 as of September 30th. You're nearly equal with where you were year over year, which is good to see. I think we're definitely seeing consistency as far as contributions to this plan when you look at them on a year over year basis. So I think that's always what you're looking for, is to see those contributions either staying steady or increasing. Withdrawals are doing what withdrawals do. In these busy seasons, people are definitely utilizing these plans. So when you see that these distributions happen so often, when you'd expect them, July and August, January and December, it's showing that people are using them to pay for school. So I think you're seeing those qualified distributions, and people have saved and now are able to make some choices for themselves in education because of that. Your net flows, not at the same rate as in past years, but you are in September seeing positive net flows, which is the expectation. So you're seeing those distributions increase in July and August, but we're going back to a positive number for September when people do their saving as opposed to their spending from these plans. This stays just remarkably consistent as far as I'm concerned. When you look at the funded accounts, I joke that it, appears to be like a Madoff curve. It just keeps kind of going up this way. I can promise you these are true results. But it's what you want to see. That's okay. That's okay. It looks like it. It's not it. But the fact that we're seeing more and more people, and this is funded accounts. So when you take into account those that have closed their plans because they've utilized the funds, you're still seeing account growth on a month over month basis. So close to 36,000 funded accounts in just the direct plan. And you're seeing an increase for Arkansas residents. So as you're seeing your number of accounts increasing since this time last year, close to 1,300 more Arkansans are being helped by 529 plans, or helping themselves, you should say, with 529 plans. I looked it up. I think Arkansans is the correct way to say people from Arkansas. Arkansans. Yeah, I'm close. I said it wrong. I found the right word. I just mispronounced it. Kind of like pecans. And we're at the highest level as far as average funded account size that the plan's been in the past 4 years. So the average assets being saved per account was $18,364 as of the end of September.
That's an interesting number. That's a lot larger than I would, if you had asked me what that number might have been.
Well, in a couple of pages, it will show what the advisor plan is, which is over 2 times as high. So people are saving significant assets. I think you have to take into account some people just use these accounts for wealth, generational wealth. But I think for the most part, people are saving a significant amount of
This
money.
includes the investor account.
This does not.
This
This is just
This is just the direct plan.
Okay.
Yep, this is just for those saving in the direct plan.
Okay.
And then, I think what stands out here, this goes in the direction you'd expect it to, growing until you hit college age and then starting to reduce. When you look at the amount of money being saved in that 0 to 5, the average account balance is over $8,000. So this isn't just people putting in the $25 and leaving it alone, or putting in $25 and then having it be $100 a month. This is a significant amount of money in that 0 to 5 age band, when everyone is really, there's not even a net here. People are saving. They're not utilizing the funds yet for any sort of education. And when I looked at the contributions, the amount people are putting in from 0 to 5 pretty much matches what they're putting in for 6 to 10. So I think when you see that, you're showing that these early adopters of the 529 plan can double
They're getting in the
as much as
habit.
they're saving if you
Yeah.
start at kindergarten.
That's right.
So I think it's just something you can use when you're going through these plans, and like people are trying to determine why I would start saving for a baby.
Mhm.
And they said, if you look here, the average account size for the advisor plan is over $45,000. It's a significant amount of money when you're considering this is everyone who's involved in the plan from 0 to 100. And then,
Just so you know, that's among the top 3 averages in the country for anyone.
right, and I'll let you go more into advisor when you're up, John. But then these are just some of our You Gifted, You Promised numbers. These are since inception, but people are using these alternative methods of funding the plan, using friends and family through You Gift, and using the You Promise reward as another method. Definitely You Gift is the larger contributor to the plan, but any amount that people can get from outside sources is helpful. So I like to see that people are utilizing those outlets.
And obviously look at the number of gifts from the direct side.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right. Well, and I think that's where you see those higher account balances for 0 to 5, when there's nothing to get for the child and
Yeah.
you just put money into their 529. I think if people start using the You Gift early, it becomes a habit.
It looks like when people do gift into the advisor plan, they gift quite a bit more at a time.
Typically, it's a higher income audience.
Mhm.
So,
That makes sense.
Mhm.
does anyone have any questions? The only other thing I wanted to let you guys know is right now we're piloting a new way of being able to get reports on these plans, be able to see where both your direct and advisor plan and ABLE plan are, as far as a lot of these stats that we put in this monthly report. Arkansas is going to be the second pilot for us. They chose Arkansas because I sold Chris's interest. I was like, he's gonna love it. He's gonna want to dig into it and ask you questions and go into the details. And I think he would be a great resource here. So Arkansas is actually, and then you guys have the 3 different types of plans, which I think is great. You'll be able to look at what you can get for data on all 3. So soon Arkansas will be our second in that, just to be able to provide this.
When do you think that will be?
I would say in the next month or so.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Pretty soon. Yeah, they're doing our first pilot right now, and they want to be starting with you guys pretty soon.
Okay.
So I'm excited for you guys to do it. And
Yeah.
Fran, we want you to dig into it too. We want to see different types of users and how they'll use the dashboards.
So you want the data geeks and then the me's.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I do. But I think that's perfect. I think you're gonna have both of those
Yeah.
people who are gonna be looking to get quick information, and it made you guys another really applicable state for the rest of the states to be able to take guidance from. So we'll appreciate that you'll be doing that
Yeah,
for us.
thank you.
Look forward to it.
Okay, we're ready to move on to Vanguard. Ms. White?
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen here. If you hear an alarm, it means I shouldn't be sharing my screen, but I'm just gonna ask for forgiveness if need be. Okay, so I did ask for a little bit of extra time here, just because I needed to go over our annual investment review. So let me get right into it just in the interest of time. So similar to previous years, we perform an annual due diligence review on the Arkansas portfolios. And this is part of, again, our annual action as your community investment advisor. And, really the point of this is to ensure that the Arkansas portfolios continue to provide investors with what we believe to be the best chance of success in meeting their education savings goals. So just in the interest of time, I'll get right into it. We'll start with the target enrollment portfolios. And so just a quick reminder to the group, so the target enrollment portfolios, they're what we would call the set it and forget it option. So similar to a target date fund and a retirement plan. And they make up a little bit over half, I think close to about 58% of all assets in the plan. And as you can see from the headline, so we are not suggested any changes for these portfolios for the coming year. And just a few things to note here. So we actually evaluate these portfolios again on an annual basis using two of our models that we use. So we have our Vanguard Capital Markets model, which uses our projections for the markets for the next 10 years, as well as our life cycle investing models. And when we ran these models using alternate glide paths, they did not give any what we would consider produce material better outcomes for the college savings goals, which really helps support our recommendation. So there's two other things that we look at. So we also look at the median wealth accumulation. So that's the amount of inflation adjusted wealth realized by the age of 18 for the investors in this portfolio, as well as the probability of meeting college costs. So really this would be the outcomes, right? So if you're an investor, these are the outcomes that you can expect with these portfolios. And neither of them produce any material different, results, in particular with the wealth accumulations. So while our market forecasts, they are lower for equity over the next 10 years, the alternate to that is bonds. They're back now. So you're actually getting interest rates. So with that, we did not see, a large difference in these wealth accumulations as a result of that. And then also the probability of meeting college costs, no, material differences there either. And I'll go into that a little bit, just to show you some of the differences. So before I move on, just any questions on this first page?
Questions?
Take the silence as no, thank you. So, and just another quick reminder to the group. So this is the current glide path for the target enrollment portfolios. You just hit 2 years in these. So it was September of 2022. I'm sure Fran and Chris remember this well, because it's a little bit of an undertaking for the team, for all groups to do this. But, so it's been about 2 years. And last year was actually the first year that we launched a new portfolio. So it was in December of last year, we launched the 2042 and 2043 portfolio, crazy to think. And then we actually closed the 2020 and 2021 portfolios. All those assets went to the commencement portfolios. So this is something that will happen every 2 years, obviously, as the investors keep moving through these portfolios. So just something to be aware of, obviously nothing that needs to be done on your end. So I'm just going to touch on 2 more slides in this section. So this particular slide, this has to do with updated projections for the expected college costs and what the monthly savings of an investor would need to look like, in several different scenarios. So I'm going to focus here on the far left, which is the 4-year public net number. And so when you look here, so investors in the Arkansas plan, particularly in these target enrollment portfolios, that's that gray bar in the middle, would need to save between $171 and $230 per month starting at birth to be able to afford a 4-year public net university. Now, and I feel like we might have had this discussion at the last meeting or the last time we reviewed this. That number can be tough. Like, how do you project exactly what the college costs were? And we actually used a little bit of a different number this year. If I look at last year, I think the number was a little bit over 19,000 for the projection. So using College Board data, I'm trying to dive into it. There's a lot there, but just different ways that you can look to see kind of what is the projected costs, and it can vary. So, in particular, we are using this number that it includes tuition, room, and cost of food, which is different than board. Again, trying to kind of wrap my head around that, but using that number. So actually, the numbers have decreased a little bit. If you think about it, it was close, a little bit over 19,000 is what the projection was. And obviously the numbers for savings would have had to increase, so a little bit less for that, but still with what we would consider in range.
Hey, Amanda, quick question. What are the earning assumptions on the moderate, target, and aggressive there?
So we would use what we're projecting. So the moderate and aggressive are the old age-based, which I say old, they still exist for some investors, but so you're particularly using target enrollment. So this would be the projections that we're looking for returns for the current portfolios.
Okay,
Like, does that answer
What
your
that
question?
percentage is?
yeah.
Yeah, do you have any idea what those percentages are, Amanda?
You know what? I don't have that information in front of me. I think obviously it would vary per portfolio. These change quarterly. So, I guess the answer would vary based on what part of the glide path you're in, if that makes sense, Chris. So
Yeah.
if you want to know, like, at birth, what that would look like if you start in that 2040 or that first portfolio.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can certainly get back to you on that. I mean, the information's out there. Any other questions for this page? All right, I'm going to move on to this one, and I feel like Kim and I could have, coordinated here, just because I loved some of the things she was saying about just the account balances in some of those younger portfolios or the younger investors that you have, and this just really tells the story of the importance of starting early. So looking at the left, so the chart on the left, it shows the wealth accumulation summaries for 3 investor scenarios, so each starting at different ages. So if you were to start at age 0, your wealth accumulation is, as you can tell, pretty significantly higher than if you were to start at age 5, which is that orange bar, or age 10, which is on the right, that call that purple, purple bar. So, I'd say kudos to the work that the Arkansas team is doing. I know it's been a big initiative to get people in the plan at an earlier age, because it really, it makes a huge difference, because you just get that compounding of the portfolio and of the returns over time, and your wealth will show as a result of it. So that's all for target enrollment portfolios that I have. Before I move on to the next section, just pause one more time for questions from anybody.
I think we're good.
Okay, sounds good. So this next section, it's actually a new section for this year. So historically, we've really focused on the target enrollment portfolios, really given that we're building the glide path for you all. But, so it's a little bit over half in the target, or half of the assets are in, target enrollment portfolios. But that leaves, a little bit over 40% in what we would call standalone portfolios, or the custom portfolios that you all have. So this is the first year we're including this in our analysis. So I wanted to just provide a little bit of background on that, and, of course, answer any questions anyone might have. So, we do believe the glide path products, so such as target enrollment, to really be a core plan element, but they're not always sufficient for every investor or education savings use case. So, and thus we see the value in having a 529 plan lineup that includes custom portfolios. And I have these listed here. These are the 6 that Arkansas has. So, and while we're not recommending any changes, I did just want to take a moment just to review kind of what our process looks like when we will look at these portfolios again on an annual basis, as I think it's important just to highlight that, saying that this is our first year including this. So there are 3 steps we follow as part of the review process. They're outlined on this page. So the first 2 steps really help to ensure the plan is offering a well-diversified mix of options, all while balancing the need to avoid what we would consider choice overload, right? Especially as you go through the enrollment process. I know Kim and her team at Ascensus, it's a lot of times people will fall out in that enrollment process if there's too many options. So that's something that we want to make sure that we're balancing when we look at the portfolios to offer outside of the glide path target enrollment portfolios. And then really the third one, it's more qualitative in nature. So it takes into account any sort of feedback you might receive from participants, from plan sponsors. So this is us working with you, Chris and Fran, and hearing what are you hearing from your participants. And that's a tough one, right? Because you might get one request from one client or asking for a particular investment choice, but is there a trend you're seeing where people are asking for something that isn't in the plan? So we want to make sure that we incorporate that into our annual due diligence analysis. So I did want to make sure that we went over that just because, again, this is something new, as the focus really has been on those target enrollment portfolios historically. Any questions in this section?
Questions?
I'm sure
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm just going to spend
Hear me? Go
I'm
ahead.
just gonna spend 5 minutes just talking about the markets and economy. I don't want to steal John's thunder. So just taking a look at what markets have done, and Kim had touched on this. When you look at the account balance of the Arkansas portfolio, we've seen it play out in the markets, right? So markets year to date through September were positive. We did see some brief periods of volatility, really, as the market absorbed a lot of the economic data that was coming out over the quarter. So, and probably the biggest news headline since we all last met, which I think was in June, is the Fed has finally started cutting interest rates. So this happened last month. They made the decision to cut by 50 basis points. And reaction, at least initially, was really largely positive, as a lot of people felt that they got the timing right. I think there's some question as to the magnitude of, they did 25 versus 50. But I think by and large, people felt that they did the right thing. And really now a lot of their focus has moved to the labor market. So historically, and I know, John and I have talked about this, they've really just been watching these inflation numbers. But they actually have a dual mandate, the Fed does. So it's inflation, and then it's also looking at the employment. So now they are starting to focus a little bit more on the employment numbers. And we did see, at least over the summer, some weakening in some of the employment sectors. So as far as kind of our projections kind of for the last couple of months of the year, I say as of today, because everything changes, but as of today, we're still seeing 2 additional rate cuts this year. We're thinking 25 basis points each time versus anything higher. Although, as I said, things are coming out at any given time. I think earlier today we had an inflation report come out it showed continuing cooling of inflation, but not at the rate we thought it was. So all these things the Fed is absorbing, and it can really potentially change what they think about the timing of next rate cuts and also the magnitude of the next rate cuts. But my understanding, what we're thinking internally and what I've been hearing from the Fed is still looking to move forward with rate cuts, probably not the same magnitude as we saw, and 2 additional ones through the end of this year. That's all I had for my comments. I don't want to take up too much time, but I do appreciate the time to go over annual investment review. And Chris, I will definitely get you some information for your question. And I did just want to wish Treasurer Walther well. apologies I can't be there, but it's been a pleasure working with you. I know this is your last meeting.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it. Any questions, any additional questions or comments or anything anybody wants to talk about? Regard to the okay. Hearing none, John or
Did you want me to go ahead and share your presentation?
Yeah. With well, I'll just dovetail on as far as the commentary is concerned that we've been discussing, a few of us, in terms of where the prognosticators think the market is going. Obviously, it's been a very volatile year. This continues to be another volatile year after 3 or 4 years of volatility. And the market is extremely data-driven and news-driven from week to week. So you might have been following in the past couple of months that, people were thinking that the Fed had not engineered a soft landing, in fact, and that maybe the risk of recession was higher than people had anticipated. And that's what the market sentiment was a couple of months ago. Then some very favorable news came out just about employment and about inflation. And now I would say that most people think that the Fed has kind of hit that sweet spot of a soft landing. Amanda spoke about the dual mandate of keeping, inflation under control as well as trying to engineer full employment. So overall, the American economy has been incredibly resilient and robust. The stock market obviously has been doing really, really well this year. When you saw the graphs comparing this year versus, say, 2021, 2021 was the biggest year across the industry in 529 in college savings. Just broadly, it was the last year of an incredible bull market run until 2022 hit. We had a bit of a dip. 2023, we kind of rebounded. And in 2024, overall, it's been pretty strong. In terms of the election, I think that the market is pretty much pricing in a neutral outcome in terms of, whichever party ends up winning the presidency, because there's this overhang of all of these expiring tax cuts that the Trump administration had put in 2025, right? So they're calling it Taxmageddon. So I think that either party, whichever party ends up being power, whether or not we have divided government in terms of, the presidency versus Congress, I think everybody's going to be forced to work together because nobody wants those tax cuts to expire, right? Those have been really, really popular. And it's always harder to take stuff back than it is to actually do new stuff. So I think that the general market sentiment is that the parties are going to have to be constructive in terms of deal making to try to get something done and make sure that those don't expire and that there's not a massive economic, impact. And as I said, overall, despite all the shocks of, pandemic, supply shock, inflation, 2 wars, all of that happening, overall, the American consumer has been incredibly strong. The amount of investment in the U.S. markets versus, international markets has been incredibly strong as well. And there are a number of uncertain things out there on top of the things that I just mentioned, but just like the cooling of the Chinese economy overall and how much the Chinese government decides to inject in terms of stimulus. You saw the Chinese market last week, just really rebound the most it has in a couple of years. And then yesterday or the day before, when China didn't announce any more significant stimulus, they had their biggest downturn, 1-day downturn in 2 years as well, right? So there's there's a lot out there. The economy is more globally connected now than it's ever been. So everybody's kind of just watching, but overall, I think people share the belief that the economy has been really, really strong. In terms of the predictions of how many rate cuts and how often and just the magnitude of the rate cuts, I think that it's been pretty surprising and most people haven't done a good job of predicting that. I think that the minority of people thought that there was going to be a 50 basis point rate cut the last last time the Fed started decreasing their rate, or started their decreasing cycle, right, which that everybody anticipates they will continue. So long story short is that everything's going well, but it's still choppy, right? And in terms of asset flows, I think everybody's been incredibly happy with the way that 2024 has gone so far. So, long may it continue. And that takes us into kind of the results specifically for the plan. And I will jump to the overall asset flows. As Pam had said, another good year. If you look at, where we're at now, we're knocking on the door of 800 million, which is basically almost doubling the plan since 2017. And, it's been a pretty significant increase in terms of assets this year as well as flows. Hoping, that 800 million is just another step on the road to $1 billion for the plan. But, overall, we've been very, very happy with the way that things are going, particularly in the state of Arkansas, which is on the next slide. Total
What
assets,
page are you on?
page 10. Yeah. Overall, we're seeing, 87 million. Actually, the asset growth within Arkansas versus the plan overall is even higher than the plan overall. So 14% increase versus the 10% increase year over year. The number of firms continue to go up. The number of financial advisors utilizing the plan, as well as the overall accounts, continues to go up. And the average account size, just for folks within the state, is now over $20,000. So that's, incredibly encouraging. It's amazing to me that Edward Jones continues to grow the number of advisors in the state, over 200 advisors now. I was just at a conference and the home office person who's responsible for the 529 business at Edward Jones was speaking. And she was saying that Edward Jones now has a financial advisor in every county in the United States except for one. One county, extremely sparsely populated in Texas, that's like massive and only has like a few thousand people in it. But otherwise, they're everywhere in the country. So, they are known for being that small town advisor, being integrated in the community, which is really just a part of their culture. And they've done a great job of just expanding. Stevens, you guys are all familiar with that. They continue to grow the number of advisors in the state, and LPL, also massive independent network. But we've been seeing great growth in the plan. And as I mentioned, overall, in terms of the average account size, pushing $50,000, one of the biggest in the whole entire country, right? So that speaks to the fact that even outside the state, you have really great utilization among RIAs just nationally. And overall, the team has been doing a great job. I remember 3 or 4 years ago, we used to hear that, the treasurer or, anybody affiliated with the plan would be traveling the state, and there were always advisors, asking about the plan and the fact that, they didn't have the opportunity to utilize it fully because we didn't have a broker-dealer share class. And we haven't received that feedback now in a few years because really everybody in the state in all corners of the state has access to the plan and they're utilizing it. So, in that sense, it's been an incredible term and progress.
Okay. I've got a question.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the advisor versus the scope. Do the advisors actually assist or provide the all of the material, not even material, do they actually create the 529 plan for those people that they're advising? And that it's actually kept by that organization?
Yeah, usually in terms of like what is actually in the portfolio for that account.
Yeah.
Yeah, so usually the financial advisor is doing that. That's the whole purpose of going through your advisor as opposed to just like selecting the investments on your own. So you have one school of thought among financial advisors is doing exactly what Amanda said, which is you have like at the core your target year of enrollment portfolio, and then from a satellite approach, you might invest more aggressively in small caps or
Right.
whatever. There are some advisors that do like creating their own investment allocation. So they will speak to their client on a quarterly basis or twice a year or annually or something like that, and then reallocate based on what they think is the best allocation for that client. But yeah, the financial advisor is in there having that conversation.
The last time I looked at the program description, there was what, 3-4 pages worth of option for
Yeah.
them to pick from on there.
Absolutely.
It was very robust.
Well, you know, and it would seem to me it would be, as far as the person who wants to invest the money in 529, it would be easier for them to have someone do it for them as opposed to, because it's not that simple, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It's not that simple. And one of the biggest drivers of savings is really, and you guys all know this, right? We're all busy. And even if you know something about the financial markets, just having somebody that asks you about it once a year or twice a year or quarterly, that's a huge plus, and that's what the financial advisor is getting paid for.
Or it's time to provide a check to the university and they'll take care of that too.
Absolutely.
I will say, just for an anecdotal story, my brother, when he started the plan for his girls, I asked him, why didn't you just go into the direct plan? It's really inexpensive for Rhode Islanders. And he's like, because I have an advisor and I just keep everything there.
Yeah.
And his advisor just kind of, instead of having a simple target date, he added some aggressive parts of the portfolio to it to kind of make it in a more aggressive target date fund. So the advisor did add some substance to the account for him, but he also wanted everything together.
And it's part of the holistic conversation that the advisor's having. In the old days, 20, 30, 40 years ago, financial advisors were basically stock jockeys and bond pickers, right? But now and they got paid like that as well, because back then fees were like 10%. It was
Now
crazy.
they're your next door neighbor.
Absolutely. But they're also helping with estate planning and insurance and healthcare and all of those types of things. So the experience right now with your financial advisor is much more a holistic kind of like goal planning conversation than, just picking individual mutual funds.
Anybody have any more questions?
I have a question, John. Does BlackRock's opinion of the future or predictions for the future of the Fed over the next few months differ a whole lot from Vanguard's?
I don't think so. I think that the market is pricing in like maybe an additional 2% in aggregate of cuts over the next like year or so,
Yeah.
right? Now, overall, as I mentioned, those predictions have been very inaccurate, I would say. I think that overall, you saw Jamie Dimon come out like a month ago saying that he thought that the chances of recession were more than 50-50. And then, a couple of weeks of financial data come out, and then like all the JP Morgan folks are basically saying it's under 20%, right? So it's people that are very connected to the economy and very connected to what's happening and have the best information at their disposal, actually including the Fed. They've been very incorrect in terms of interpreting the economic data, and this is what's been amazing about the American economy. It has just been so much more robust and resilient than people have really given it credit for, right? So, but, it's everything that you don't know. It's like Dick Cheney said, it's the unknown unknowns, right? That are out there that really scare everybody, and people are trying to figure that out.
This is no different than any other time. I've been doing
Yes.
this for a long time.
Yeah,
On board college and, and other things here within government. It's just uncertain.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's the
Thank you, John.
uncertainty.
John?
Yeah, I got to do a short reports. One is the year-end budget report. This is the fiscal year ended June 30th. It was a good year for the admin account. We had projected to have income exceeding expenses by 78,000. It turned out to be almost 213,000. That's made up of, so that's $134,000 over budget. Of that amount, 115,000 of it was additional income based on the market and other things. And we had about $18,000 of expenses that were less than we'd budgeted. So it was a positive year for the admin account. At the end of June, the two admins account had total of $530,000 in it, so. That's the year-end budget report.
Thank you. Let's see, where's the agenda?
It's still John.
Yeah.
It's still John. He's
The
got all
other
of it.
thing is that we've got the proposed engagement letter from Landmark, the year-end audit. And I've reviewed it. It's pretty similar to last year, except it's got several more pages. Oh, it's grows in here. Grows over here. In addition to the audit of the financials, they will also do a management, MD&A management discussion and analysis, which they've been doing the last several years. And they also do this tests on the admin account to make sure that we're receiving the right amount from both BlackRock and Vanguard. They estimate fees are $35,000 for the direct plan and $55,000 for the advisory plan, for a total of $90,000, which is what it's been the last several years. They've not increased it. So my recommendation is that we engage the letter.
You have a motion about that?
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next meeting, have we got that meeting, so?
We don't, we're tentatively looking at, the week of
What
March
happened in March?
3rd or March 10th.
Okay.
So we wanted to give the new administration some time to kind of settle in and allow us an opportunity to debrief them on the plan. So we'll just get back in touch with everybody probably in mid-January to set something. Does that give you enough time for travel?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, I want to just say how much I appreciate y'all participating in the 529 plan and being part of this committee. And it's really a great service to to people in Arkansas. And it's a great way to get things done, get an education paid for. So many people don't even think about it. I've used it personally, and I think it's a great plan. But I thank y'all, our consultants who come in to give us advice too, but also the board too. And the staff. I won't forget the staff for sure. And I'm going to miss being here. I'm doing a lot of committees and chair most of them, and I've really enjoyed this one. We do it pretty quick, and it doesn't take long, but a lot of work goes into it before we get here. I know that. So thank you all, and I appreciate you. And hopefully I'll see you somewhere on if I'm down there on the corner, with that can looking for
With
me.
the sign.
If you ever find yourself in Delaware. Yeah.
I think I might have trouble finding
That's
them.
At some point,
I
I just
just-
decided I was from Delaware.
And not
or
Rhode
would have
Island.
preferred it, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe even like
I
Baltimore.
like giving them like that.
I know.
Well, listen, again, thank you, and I guess there's no further business to come before this committee, so we stand adjourned. So, and safe travel for everybody. Back to Delaware.
Thank you, Treasurer. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny.